He's writing about the emergence of governmentality, something that's not the state or sovereignty per se, but is the whole sort of series of administrative procedures that govern the conduct of people within a state. And he's trying to develop an idea of how changes in individual behavior can have radical political consequences, and he's trying to find the right word. So if you can just bear with me for a moment while I go through Foucault's argument on this. He says, I just want to raise a problem of simple vocabulary. Can we not try to find a word to designate what I've called resistance, refusal, or revolt? How can we designate the type of revolt, or rather the sort of specific web of resistance to forms of power that do not exercise sovereignty and do not exploit, but rather conduct? They lead people to do things. And he situates this in the context of his description of the pastorate as a form in the West that's derived from Near Eastern styles of social organization. The idea of a shepherd who leads a flock that enters the West through the form of Christianity. And that this idea of the pastorate is as important as ideas of sovereignty, because there's this whole set of procedures for how one is supposed to conduct oneself in society. He says, I often use the expression revolt of conduct, but I have to say that I'm not very satisfied with it, because the word revolt is both too precise and too strong to designate much more diffuse and subdued forms of resistance. Second, there's the word disobedience. This word, on the hand, is no doubt too weak, although the problem of obedience is in fact the center of all of this. Insubordination, perhaps, is a word, although we're dealing with this word in a way that's localized and attached to military insubordination. And here's some comments that I think relate directly to this film. He says, there is, to be sure, a word that comes to mind. I was writing in 1978. But I would rather cut my tongue out than use it. I will therefore just mention it. It is, as you have guessed, the word dissidence. In fact, maybe the word dissidence is in fact exactly suited for the forms of resistance that we're concerned with the forms of resistance that concern, that set their sights on, and have as their objective an adversary, a power that assumes the task of conducting men in their life and their daily existence. The word would be justified for two reasons, both of them historical. The first is that, in fact, the word dissidence has often been employed to designate religious movements in resistance to pastoral organization. Second, more importantly for here, its current application could in fact justify its use, since after all, what we call dissidence in the East and the Soviet Union really does designate a complex form of resistance and refusal, which involves a political refusal, of course, but in a society where political authority, that is the political party responsible for defining both the country's characteristic form of economy and structures of sovereignty, is at the same time responsible for conducting individuals in their daily life through a game of generalized obedience. We could speak, moreover, of the pastoralization of power in the Soviet Union. Certainly there's a bureaucracy in the party. There is also a pastoralization of the party and a dissidence. The political struggles that we put together under the name of dissidence certainly have an essential fundamental dimension that is refusal of this form of being conducted. It is as if to say, we do not want this salvation you promise. We do not wish to be saved by these people, by these means. We do not wish to obey you. We do not want this system where even those who command have to obey out of terror. We do not want this system of obedience. We do not want this truth. We do not want to be held to this system of truth. We do not want to be held in this system of observation and endless examination that continuously judges us, that tells us who we are in the core of ourselves, healthy or sick, mad or not mad, and so on. So we could say that this word dissidence really does cover a struggle against those pastoral effects. And it is precisely because the word dissidence is too local today in this kind of phenomena that it cannot be used without drawback. So let's give up that word. And what I will propose to you is doubtlessly a bad construct, the word counter-conduct, the latter having the sole advantage of allowing reference to the active sense of the word conduct. Counter-conduct in the sense of struggle against processes implemented for conducting others. which is why I prefer it to misconduct, which only refers to the passive sense of the word behavior, not conducting oneself properly. I'm almost done here. And then maybe this word counterconduct enables us to avoid a certain substantification allowed by the word dissidence. Because the word dissidence, where we get dissident, or the other way around, it doesn't really matter. In any case, dissidence is the act of one who is a dissident, and I am not sure that this substantification is very useful. It might even be dangerous. There's this process of hero worship that does not seem of much use to me. On the other hand, by using the word counterconduct, and so without having to give a sacred status to this or that person as a dissident, we can no doubt analyze the components in a way in which someone actually acts in a very general field of politics or in a very general field of power relations. It makes it possible to pick out the dimensions or components of counterconduct that may well be found, in fact, in delinquents and mad people and patients. So an analysis of this immense family of what could be called counterconducts. So what I would just like to suggest is that gender can, in fact, transgender can be a form of counterconduct that disrupts the mechanisms of the state, not at the level of sovereign power, but at the level of how we all individually conduct ourselves, how the techniques through which we enact our bodies, our forms of association with other people, not on the basis of class or party, and that it can, in fact, be, in transgendering, we can, in fact, disrupt the mechanisms through which sovereign power and state reproduce itself. I would say that looking at it this way, one of the failures of the Soviet Revolution was that it didn't address this level of governmentality or of personal conducts and reproduce those in much the same way that capitalist societies did. And so, anyway, what I hope this film can inspire us all to do is to fully embrace the power of cinema to transform our subjects, to inspire us in new ways to go out in the world, to model and envision the kind of society that we might want to live in. So anyway, thanks.